In 1923, 20-year-old George rejects his mixed-race family in Tiger Bay to seek the high life of New York City. Shocked by American racism, he plays a dangerous game and passes for white, spending some years being courted by wealthy women, until his life changes dramatically. Run by a bootlegger during the Prohibition, this excerpt from Masquerade refers to one of the clubs in uptown Harlem, catering for a strictly white clientele. It's 1925, during the Harlem Renaissance. The waiter nodded politely at them both before pulling out their chairs and straightway produced a small bottle of strong liquor seemingly out of nowhere. He whispered politely that they should place it carefully under the table, as usual. They sat down and George looked around. He had no idea what to expect when Bonnie led him up to the entrance of the club and under a bright red awning reaching right out to the curb. The doormen, two black men dressed in close-fitting red uniform, stood to attention as they passed by. Man, was he glad she'd offered to pay. This place would be way out of his league. There was a gleaming brass railing around the dance floor, and the stage was surrounded by velvet drapes. It was nearly midnight, and the general atmosphere was one of impending excitement. George took the opportunity to examine the style worn by those who could afford to frequent such places. Most of the men were wearing highly polished two-tone shoes, button-down collars and sharp trousers with creases you could cut your finger on. Several of the women were bedecked in long, glittering beads and dresses made of bright fabric which clung to their hips. A woman nearby turned around in her seat and winked at George. A large frill hung around below her smooth back, which was bare to the waist. Her slick of chestnut hair curled around one shoulder. A gaggle of brass instruments dipped and lurked. The drum kit was sprinkled with glitter, all ready and waiting to be kicked into action. The band wore a uniform of matching red tuxedos with bow ties. All the musicians were black, in a collection of every skin tone known in Harlem as going from high yellow to blue-black. A lone trumpeter played an introduction before the rest of the instruments joined in. Trombonists pointed their instruments into the air as they took their turns to shine. The drummer's hands jiggled and pranced, his face gleaming with sweat. Before long, people were on their feet. The extravagance of the music was matched only by their dancing with gleeful abandonment. Despite being mesmerized by the scene, George felt uncomfortable as he recalled his father's maxim about slaving away for the big man. He studied the musicians wearing their over-wide smiles and playing their damnedest to satisfy their guests, all of them knowing that at the end of the night they would be obliged to creep out through the back door to join the community of the unseen and disrespected as the sun rose over the unrelenting New York skyline.